A beautiful morning in London. Hello and welcome, and we're going to do a collaboration mudlark today with Nic from Tideline Art. Good morning, Nic. This is Nic White from Tideline Art, and there's a link to her channel below, and it's very well worth a look. She's very creative, and we're here on the foreshore and we will see what turns up. What are you looking forward to, Nic?
Well, I'm looking forward to finding lots of bits of pottery. I'm particularly looking forward to you telling me a little bit more about the pottery I find, because it's something that I don't really know much about. But if I find a coin as well, I'll be very, very happy. Okay, that would be nice. I'm rubbish at finding coins because I'm always looking for clay. I'm such a pothead, but small metal finds often elude me. But we'll see what happens. It's a good place for the older stuff here. So what's unusual about this pipe bowl? This pipe bowl here, well, it's from the 1700s by the looks of it, probably early 1700s. So, yeah. But what's interesting is that little design there at the beginning of the stem, and I haven't seen that before on one of these pipes.
That is very unusual.
Yeah, so
yes, it's a good find.
I'm going to have to keep that.
It's a keeper.
It's a keeper. Yeah.
This bit of the foreshore is eroding and producing lots of pins, handmade pins. These will date from medieval right through to post-medieval. The Tudors used a lot of pins in making their elaborate clothing, but there's lots of pins coming out of the mud here, and also, interestingly, one of the mysterious things of the Thames, little garnets as well, uncut garnets. You find a lot of those in certain places, and this is one of them. So semi-precious stones. There's always a possibility that you might find some small metal items here as well, like a coin would be nice, or a washer perhaps, not so exciting. Little bits of lead as well. Yep, and bits of screw, copper and brass. They all seem to end up sorted in the same place by the river.
Oh, looks like Richard has picked something up here.
Got a few bits. A good thing about pottery is even from quite a small bit you can get an idea. This is German stoneware. So high-fired with a blue cobalt glaze, and it's from Westerveld.
Oh.
With a very pretty decoration.
Okay.
And then some earthenware. This is the oldest bit I've found so far. You can just see on the edge the white line of slip that they put on here. So they've made a red clay pot, but then they've covered it in white slip to make it look more posh, to make it look like white clay, and then they've green glazed it. So this will be Tudor. This is 1480 to 1600.
1480 to 1600.
Yeah, with the white slip gives it away. Just see the white edge there.
Yeah.
And the archaeologists give this the very snappy name of London area post-medieval slipped redware.
Slipped redware.
Slipped, yeah, from the white slip they covered it with. And then a bit of a dish. This is going to be post-medieval borderware, white clay, but it's still 1550 to 1700.
So when you say post-medieval, you're dating it as?
Yeah, roughly 1500 would be the start of the post-medieval period. There's a big change in food and drink and pottery production. Habits change and you get new forms, a lot more serving dishes and a lot more drinking cups as well for individual drinking, and better clay without bits in.
Right, and slip, can you just explain what slip, I know I've obviously heard of slipware, but slip, yes. What is slip?
So slip is a liquid clay and you dip your pot in it, so it's not like a glaze which is high fired to a shiny surface, but it just gives an even covering that's good for decoration, and then you can glaze.
Okay, and then the glaze goes on over the top of the slip.
So you've got a lead glaze, probably coloured with copper to make the green, on top of the slip, so you've got 2 layers there, which gives away the ID. That you've only got clay and lead glaze, so just one process.
Right, okay. And what do you think this comes from? A plate or a pot?
Yeah, I think probably a large serving dish or a cooking pot, casserole pot.
Fascinating. What I love about pottery is so personal, isn't it? Somebody's eaten out of that.
Yes.
Somebody's made something, chopped up some vegetables.
I find it a link to the ordinary Londoner in ages past. You know, it's not like, I love a gold coin, but you know, that's more of an aristocracy thing that you'd see in the British Museum, but you tend not to get the personal everyday things.
Yes, that's right. It is a link to the past, isn't it? A real link to the ordinary everyday Londoner.
Yes, that's what I love about it.
Have you?
Nestled away between these rocks is a stubbornly bit of scratch blue. So it's stoneware, salt glazed stoneware, but made in England, imitating West Wales. So it's just rather 18th century, 1740, 1770.
That's lovely.
Here's a find everybody likes. A bit of salt glazed stoneware Bartman jug, one of the roundels or crests from the body of the jug. So a coat of arms or a heraldic pattern or just a flower or abstract, but that's quite nice. So that would be 16th or 17th century, that piece. Actually, very oddly, a house from the Monopoly set. Just my luck not to find a hotel.
Excellent, great
with
find.
House prices in London, I think that's probably the most valuable find of the day.
Nice find.
Yeah, unusual. I don't know, they're playing Monopoly on one of the boats and it got probably more likely ended up down someone's toilet, I think, when you think about it. Anyway, I should take it with me because it's plastic.
Yes.
Out of the ocean.
Yes.
So, away.
What have you got there, Richard?
Just picked up a couple of medieval pieces of pottery. This is greyware, but the medieval potters weren't as careful in preparing their clay, so there's a lot of temper left in it. You can see little bits.
What's temper?
Things that are added to the clay to make it more elastic or to give it strength, or just things that are in the natural clay that a modern potter would take out and sieve out to make the clay look more uniform and nice. But they left them all in, so you've got large bits of quartz and flint and other things there. So this is Surrey whiteware.
Surrey whiteware.
Yeah, very common, made in London, Cheam and in Farnborough on the Surrey-Hampshire borders. So they call it coarse borderware sometimes. But this would date to about 1350 to 1500.
1350 to 1500. It's incredible that you can come down to the river and pick up something from 1350, isn't it?
Yes. And this might be a bit older. The greyware probably a couple of centuries older, so that's probably sort of 12th to 14th century.
Gosh,
I would
that's
think. I guess from a cooking pot, probably a very solid rim from a large cooking pot.
And why are there bits of, say, quartz in it? Why? Why is there quartz in it? Was that in the clay?
Yeah, sometimes it's in the natural clay and they can't be bothered to take it out like a modern potter would or a post-medieval potter. But sometimes they'll add it because it makes better thermal properties and more elastic, so it fires better when you've got some heat-absorbing additions.
Okay, so probably something that would have gone on a fire or something.
Oh yes, yeah, definitely for cooking. The medieval period is the period of the cooking pot and the jug.
Right.
97% of all pottery is either a cooking pot or a jug.
So the essential kitchenware of the day, of the time.
So that's nice to pick up something, from Chaucer's London.
Yes, that is. We've been down here for 5 minutes and you've got like a whole range of pottery. I've actually picked up a few little bits.
Oh, great.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll just...
Have a bit of stash.
Yeah, I shall just take them out of the bag that I put them in.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a bit like what you were showing me earlier, isn't it?
Exactly. Yes, that's right. That is exactly the same. So that is the post-medieval London, no, sorry, yes, it is post-medieval, London slipped redwares.
Okay.
So 1480 to 1600.
Okay, and
very nice.
This one here looks quite,
yes,
quite flat.
That is good. That's been in a fire sometime. That's burnt off a bit. That would originally been white clay, I think, from the edge of a charger or a plate. That would probably be borderware. So that's 1550 to 1700 with a nice olive lead glaze.
Yeah, it's a lovely colour, isn't it?
It is very nice. Ah, classic salt glazed stoneware.
Ah, I thought it was. Was that perhaps from a Bellarmine or a Bartman?
Yes, I think
jug?
it probably is from a Bartman jug. So nice to find a face sometime, but most of the body bits, you know, the curve of the globular form of the Bartman jug with the classic salt glaze, or tiger glaze they call it sometimes, produced by throwing salt into the kiln at the end of the firing process. It's a very nice finish to it, just stoneware.
Was that made in Germany, salt glaze?
Yes, that's
pottery
right,
then?
yeah. Cologne and Frechen, Westerwald, Germans really invented stoneware about 1300 and they had a pretty much monopoly of it until the 18th century when they started to produce it here.
And then that would have come over probably whole big wine jugs or...
Yes, that's right, yeah. Imported with wine and then used for serving drinks, wine and beer afterwards.
So that's a bit more modern, I suppose.
That's very nice. I think that's...
It must be quite hard to date some kinds of pottery because it looks so similar.
Some is, yes. You can only give a very broad period to some of it. That is hand painted. I think that probably is tin glazed, which is going to be 17th or 18th century. So it's still quite nice. Imitating Chinese export porcelain in a slightly cheaper way. But it's nice to have the hand painted decoration.
Yeah.
Again, a link to the potter that actually made that piece, which is very
wonderful.
Nice. And then these ones, very difficult to be specific with these. These are post-medieval redwares. So they will date any time from the Tudor period, from the 16th century right up to the Victorian period.
Okay.
They're producing these as very sort of utilitarian kitchen and industrial wares with a lead glaze. So difficult to pin them down unless they've got an unusual shape. But a good eye. Well done, Nic.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So what have you got there, Richard?
More medieval.
More medieval.
Great day for medieval. This is again Surrey whiteware.
Yeah.
With a buff coloured clay full of little bits of inclusions. But it comes from the base of the pot where they put a thumbing round the edge to make it stand up straight. Which actually gives you the potter's finger impressions. These are quite small, they're much smaller than my fingers, making me think it might have been made by a woman or even a child.
Oh.
And you've even got sort of a fingerprint and a fingernail impression.
Fancy that, a medieval fingerprint.
Yes.
A fingernail print.
So this potter, 600-700 years ago, has formed this pot and thumbed out the base to make it stand up straight in someone's kitchen.
Gosh.
And there is, yeah, you can see a trace of a medieval fingerprint, which is very evocative, I think, of the potter's art, an unknown potter.
And that really does, it feels quite wonderful, doesn't it, when you hold a piece of pottery like that somebody has made, 600 years ago. That's pretty special.
Yes, it's a direct link, yeah. And then right to the other end of the spectrum, a bit of transfer printed Victorian pottery, a bit dirty, mud stained, but you can see rather a nice pattern, net pattern on that, a bit crazed. But yeah, right, only a mere 150 years old.
Oh, it's a bit modern then, really.
Yeah, throw it away.
Excellent. Well, what have you picked up there?
Well, this large chunk of something, I was going to ignore it because I thought it was part of a brick or a drain pipe, but it seems to have a stamp on it, and I'm thinking it might actually be Roman, because you've got a distinct handle there, which would be like a large handle for gripping. So I think it might be for a mortarium, which you'd grip, and then you would grind herbs and spices and oil to make your fish sauce and whatever else you wanted to put on your Roman meal. And it has got little chips of stone in the clay which help you to grind it. So I'll have to do some research, but that might actually be the maker's mark, like on Samian, but they did it also on Mortaria.
Yes.
So it might be some Roman letters with an F at the end for fake it, you know, such and such made this.
Yeah.
And again, another finger impression on it. So yeah, I'm quite happy with that.
Yeah, so you've already got such a lot to research, haven't you?
I know.
We've only really just arrived.
I know. It takes me a lot of my evenings pouring through books and online reports. Just hiding away in the shallows here, a pipe bowl. This is quite a small one, so that is going to be 17th century, maybe about 1640 to 1660. So Civil War period, English Civil War of course that is. No maker's mark, that would have been the icing on the cake if it had a maker's mark on it.
So you've got a little piece of Roman pottery there, have you?
Yes, very small but very distinctive. So it's not glazed, it's actually covered with a slip liquid clay, and it's just the rim of a colour-coated vessel. It's very delicate Roman pottery, so you don't normally get very big bits, well apart from that one obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, this takes us back to Roman London, Londinium.
Yeah.
43 to 410 AD. The river was much wider then,
right.
So it would have gone 100, 200 feet further back towards the city.
Oh, wonderful. So a piece of Roman history there in your hands.
Yes, it's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just to be able to come down here and pick it up.
It really is. We're very lucky with the Thames being tidal, aren't we? Because I suppose a lot of this would just be hidden under the water and we wouldn't have the opportunity of finding it. And
that's very true, yes. It's always stripping out new finds every day. And the fact that it's such a large city as well, it's just a perfect combination, you know, and the high rise and the fall of the tide every day, you know, 17 feet, isn't it, I think? It's perfect for us mudlarks.
We're very lucky.
Oh yes. Here's another piece of Roman pottery just up. It's colour coated, there's a trace of it on the back, but from the front most of it's worn off. But I noticed the rouletted decoration first, which alerted me to the fact that it is a Roman piece of pottery, which is quite nice. Also, Nick has just found this lovely piece of pottery, which we think is Roman as well, colour coated. So we're going to try and research that and find out what shape pot that would have come from. But that's a very nice piece of Roman. Quite a large piece to have survived so many years on the foreshore. Yes. There we are, yes, a nice sea urchin fossil in flint from the Thames, fresh up, a mere couple of 100 million years old. It's been sitting there.
Isn't that gorgeous?
To be found by us today.
And also there's it's just a very small fragment of decorated pipe stem.
Oh, very nicely
pretty,
decorated
isn't
though,
it?
isn't it? That's going to be probably Victorian, isn't it, I would think. They used to like their decoration. Probably had a lovely decorated bowl as well to go with it.
That's nice.
Top find. 2 in 1 hole. That's good. I think it might be.
So what's that?
Another possibly Roman find. I think it's Roman, but they're tiles they used to make the hypercaust underfloor heating out of. They always put a scored pattern in to key in the mortar when they fixed it.
Oh.
So you get this roller stamped decoration on them. So I'm pretty sure that is, well, it's been in a fire sometime as well. Pretty sure that is part of a Roman hypercaust flue tile. So doing okay, Roman and medieval wise.
Well, we're certainly doing very well. So Richard, when did you start mudlarking?
About 10 to 12 years ago, I think. I read a book by Ivor Noel Hume.
Ah, yes.
Who is a brilliant archaeologist and mudlark. He left London to work in America, but he wrote a book called All the Best Rubbish.
Yes.
When he described mudlarking, and I thought, oh, that's just me, perfectly. Because ever since I was a child, I'd pick up things, and when I was a boy, I had a metal detector as well. But I'm always head down looking to see what I can pick up. And so I tried it, picked up loads of things, I had no idea what they were. But eventually I started to discover the history behind them, and assign a date to them. And now I can't keep away.
I know, it's like that for a lot of mudlarks, isn't it? Actually, a friend of mine, Vicky, thank you very much, Vicky, just gave me that book, actually, All the Best Treasure.
Oh, yes.
So it is, it's so, it's such a beautiful book.
It is a great book, yeah. He's written another one in the 1950s called Thames Treasures.
Yes, I've got that as well.
Have you? That's quite a rare book. You're lucky to find that. Yeah, I was lucky to get one for £15, but they're normally about £50.
Yeah, I got that as well from a friend. Thank you very much, Flory.
Yes.
Yeah, that reminds me, actually, I need to have a proper look at it.
Yeah, but anything by Ivor Noel Hume I'd recommend. You know, he's got a good understanding of pottery and history, and he writes in a very exciting way as well.
Right, wonderful.
So Powell of Bristol, the largest stoneware potters in Victorian times, and they invented this Bristol glaze, which is this like light coloured stoneware glaze from 1830 onwards. So it's quite thick, so probably from a flagon, something like that.
Powell of Bristol.
Yes. Yeah, right through to the 1940s. They were making ginger beers and other stoneware vessels.
Always nice to find a maker's mark, isn't it?
Yes, quite unusual, but nice, yeah. Another bit of Victorian rubbish. It's a blacking pot. So these are made from early Victorian, Georgian, through the Victorian period, and contained blacking, which to rub your grate with in the kitchen to make it black.
Oh, I see. Do you know what? I always thought blacking was actually for shoes. I didn't realise.
Oh yeah. No, it's more for metalwork, for all the ranges and grates that they had in the Victorian kitchen. They would polish it with this stuff to make it nice and black.
Oh, so that is part of a blacking pot.
Yes, that's right, because they're quite solid and thick. You can sometimes find whole ones. But Charles Dickens, his first job as a child was to stick labels on blacking jars.
Really?
Yes.
What a great snippet of history that is.
So who knows, that might be one of the ones Charles Dickens
think of that.
labelled.
Are you keeping that?
Yeah, but you're welcome to have it if you want it.
All right, I'll take it to take a photograph, definitely.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Blacking pot.
So yeah, post-medieval redware, but this bit has got a white residue inside, or a white slip coating, which means it probably comes from a sugar cone mould. So in the old days, rather than having granulated sugar, you would put liquid sugar into one of these cone-shaped moulds, and the molasses would drip through into a receiving pot underneath, and you'd be left with a cone of sugar. And some of the 17th century tokens have a picture of this sugar cone on them, and that's how people, and they had sugar nips which would nip off bits of sugar from your
lovely.
cone.
So that dates back to when then?
This could be any time between about 1600 and 1830.
So we've got butter pottery, sugar pottery,
Yes.
blacking pottery.
Yeah, that's right. The whole industrial range
I've just learned so much today.
of foreshore pottery. Yeah.
Yeah, feel free to.
Nic is now showing me some of her best pottery finds. So, very exciting cigar box full of treasure.
We've already seen a bit of this, haven't we? But,
so we've got some Samian ware here. Beautiful moulded Victory on that very nice dish, and then a bit of plain Samian, but a whole profile, which is rather good. And some lovely Delft ware. There, a bit of Delft tile, that's lovely. The middle of a Delft charger, that's beautiful decoration on that. And that's very nice. That might be Italian, that one. It's a very nice style. And again, that's a lovely Delft tile with a boat on it. Oh, look, some more Samian. It's a beautiful cup. Load of treasures.
I'll get it all out. Because I wanted to specifically ask you about black burnished, and that I wanted to ask you about as well, actually. And yeah, that's pretty much all.
This is Roman as well.
Yes.
So that is burnished. Yes, because they polished the surface of the clay to make it shine. That's all it is, really. You get a stone or a bit of wood and you burnish it. That's a lovely lattice decoration, very typical of Roman pottery. And that is an amazing chunk. Don't worry, you can do this all again with your amazing
so
chunk
thick,
of Roman courseware. That must have been a lovely storage pot, I would think, in its day. And then this stuff, lovely, that's beautiful decoration there, lattice decoration on that again. That's also burnished inside and out. And like a lot of Roman pottery, it's got a sort of metallic sheen to it as well. I'm not quite sure why that happens. And that's very nice. I mean, that might even be pre-Roman. That could actually be Iron Age, because it's got that sort of curvy, linear, Latin sort of decoration on it. Amazing. Some post-medieval. Very nice bit of slipware. Now that bit, I think that is possibly, depending where you found it in the estuary, I guess you found it in the estuary, that could be a bit of salt making. They used to make big troughs of very coarse pottery, and they'd dry them out with salt in them to produce salt in the estuary, and that looks a lot like that's what that is. That's fascinating, that is.
Yeah, it's like the head of a lizard or a snake, isn't it?
It is, isn't it? Or even a fish.
Oh, it could be a fish.
It looks a bit fishy. That's an interesting one. I'm not sure. I think that could be French. Probably. See, it's got the rim there as well. Possibly a French import, which would make it 17th century. This stuff is the Sunderland slipware, so it's 1800 to 1900 from a baking dish. This little fellow from a chafing dish.
Oh, I wondered what that was. I didn't know exactly the reason why I wanted that.
So around the rim of the pot you'd have 3 or 4 knobs like that, and that would support, so you'd have hot coals in your chafing dish, and you'd put a plate of food which would rest on top of those, and that would keep it warm or heat it up. And that's a lovely bit of post-medieval earthenware there as well.
Do you have any ideas on this fellow?
Now, he is going to be Bacchus, the god of wine.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Bacchus.
So it'd be from a serving jug, and that's going to be Georgian or Victorian.
Right.
Stoneware. Nice heavy piece. So yeah, if you look up Bacchus jug, there's a whole range of them. They did them in transfer printed and blue and white and all sorts. Right, sorry, I've taken over. So we're down here on the foreshore with Nic White from Tideline Art. I was curious how you got into this whole mudlarking scene. It's not something you wake up in the morning and think, I'm going to go knee deep in mud and look for Roman pottery.
No, you're right. The reason I got into mudlarking, or the way I discovered mudlarking, is that I grew up in Cornwall, so I always used to go beach combing and I loved the sea and the beach. And so when I moved to London, one day I found myself down on the Thames foreshore, and it was like a replacement beach. And it really went on from there. I used to pick up bits of glass and pottery to use in collages, and then I found my first coin. And I remember that day so well because it was really exciting.
Oh, what coin did you find?
Oh, well, it was a relatively modern one. It was Georgian coin.
Yeah.
It was a George V coin, but it was just so exciting, having never found a coin before. And then after that, I just started to go down more and more often and find more and more interesting little bits and pieces. And it just grasps your imagination. And I think once you start, it's very hard to stop.
Yes, I agree with that. Yes, definitely. Yeah. And you also take things from the foreshore and use them for art projects. And I hear you've made a cormorant, which will be revealed next week.
Yes, I have. I've been collecting a lot of plastic along the river, and it's a way of highlighting that issue.
Yes.
I've collected lots of lighters, dummies, various odd bits of plastic, and I've made a big bird. That's all I'm going to say.
Yes, okay. Well, all will be revealed, and that's at the Tide Festival next week, isn't it?
It's at the Foragers of the Foreshore exhibition, part of the Totally Thames Festival, from the 25th to the 29th of September in the Barge House, Oxo Tower Wharf. Be there, be square.
We'll definitely be there. Now, question you asked me, is there anything that you haven't found that would be on your hit list of things you'd love to find?
Gosh, there are a lot of things I'd love to find, but I would love to find a whole Bartman jug. I mean, it's highly unlikely, but you just never know. I would love to find, a whole Bartman jug. That would be an absolute dream find.
I've seen someone found about 9/10 of one, didn't they? Just missing a bit from the neck.
Yes.
So that would be good. Yeah, that would be quite nice. I would cope with a few of those. Yes. Well, Nic, thank you. It's been so lovely to film with you today. Happy hunting in the future.
Thank you very much. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.